Good evening, Council. I'm Bill Sutton, 301 West Westhoff Place here in Gardner. I work on budgets from time to time, constantly. So I just have a couple of observations after reviewing the city budget that I'd like to make. I'm not going to go way off into the weeds here and put everyone to sleep like happens in most budget meetings. My main observation is that I want to caution you against exploding expenditures in order to absorb revenue in excess. It's something that it's not isolated to here. It happens everywhere. But there are a number of issues that arise when that sort of thing happens. Number one, and probably the most damaging overall, is that you create a juggernaut that will drain your revenue forever. Because decreasing a program, eliminating a program, decreasing manpower, these are all tough choices to make, and they're very often not made. So as you add manpower, whether there's been overtime accrued in the past or not, or take on new projects, this is something that you have to look at. Do you want it there forever? And that's exactly what would happen. It also, by the way, makes charts that are based on as a percentage of expenditures completely useless. All right? When you just explode expenditures, you can make that percentage number any number you want. We've already talked about, actually, Rich mentioned the reduction of economic development or the economic health of the community. That's true. Property tax is not as damaging as income tax, but it's still, that stifling pressure is there. So that's something to take into consideration. And Bruce and Rich both kind of hinted at the next point, and that is that it reduces the trust of the taxpayers. And that's really who we all serve, is the taxpayers. If it's a lot easier for a taxpayer to vote for an increase if they know it's for a specific project and they know it'll go away when it's not needed any longer. If instead they vote for a tax increase that will never go away, and they know that it will never go away because they've learned that from history, be it in the state where it happens, be it in the city where it can happen. It's going to be a whole lot harder for you to get a tax initiative passed, or for you to enjoy your time on the council when the citizenship is not all that happy with the decision, and they don't have that faith. I think they both summed it up rather well with, in the end, the money belongs to the taxpayers. And that's something that I'm not going to go into this a whole lot. In every budget hearing, I hear someone say state funds. In this case, it will be city funds. There's no such thing, folks. It's the people's money. It's the taxpayers' money. Bruce and Rich mentioned that already, and they're absolutely correct. And that's something that I always also correct people on in those meetings, and make sure that I emphasize that we're spending the taxpayers' dollars, and they've placed their faith in us to do so wisely and sparingly. So in the end, I do encourage a mill levy decrease. I think that the one being considered is minimal. It could actually absorb quite a bit more, but I'm not on the budget committee, so it's okay. But I do encourage a mill levy decrease. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bill.
Lee Moore, 521 Dogwood. I'd just like to echo what my colleagues have said before me. I'd like to also point out just the fact that the mill rate was increased. I'm not sure exactly when, a couple of years ago. It was to address some very specific problems, and those problems apparently have been addressed, and it seems like a mill rate decrease would be in order. And I agree with everything Representative Sutton just said about allowing this thing to grow and become unwieldy, and having to face really difficult decisions down the road when property values drop off again. Guys like me we're not gonna be stepping up to vote for an increase on the mill levy if we can't trust that when when the need is expired and things are being paid for, bills are being paid, that you guys aren't gonna see that and act accordingly to help us out. And I also noticed on here, on the agenda, we're looking at raising the water and wastewater rates. And while I'm not against that by any stretch, I think we need to take care of business on the water and wastewater side. I would like to see the mill decrease to help offset that increase in our utility bills. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee.
Steve McNair, 528 North Elm, here in Gardner. I might remind all of you that as a mill rate is increased or decreased, that's not a static number in terms of actual tax dollars to the citizen who pays those taxes. As property values increase, you just levied another tax increase on the citizens of the community of Gardner. I might caution you on raising those. In fact, a reduction in the mill levy might be good. And as Bruce and everybody else mentioned, it is our money, not yours.
Thank you, Steve. With no one else coming forward, I entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Motion Harrison, second Freeman, that we close the public hearing on the city's 2015 budget. All those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The public hearing is closed. New business item number 3. Consider approving an ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2015 budget. Do we have an ordinance number?
2451.
2451. Very good. Lord Norley, good evening.
Hello. So, as you know, we do our budget here by priority-based budgeting. And because the priority-based budgeting practice was implemented for the fiscal year 2014 budget, the budget process is now an ongoing cycle. It never stops. So the creation of the fiscal year 2015 budget is actually a continuation of the cycle. And we've gone out of our way to increase stakeholder input above and beyond what was ever done prior to priority-based budgeting. The stakeholder input actually began last fall with the governing body CIP tour, and we continued throughout the year with talking to the business community and the faith-based community. And as I mentioned in my previous presentations, 1,100 citizens have had input on this 2015 budget through their work with the CPAC committee and the Economic Development Advisory Council and the Citizen Survey. And we've also talked to the KCADC and the State Secretaries of Transportation and Commerce. All of their input has been included in this budget. In addition to that, we've also monitored and evaluated the previous year's budget for 2013 and the current year's budget for 2014, and I gave presentations on both of those regarding 2013 highlights and 2014 mid-year review. That was done in April. Following the reaffirmation of your 4 strategic goals of promoting economic development and improving the quality of life, fiscal stewardship, and infrastructure and asset management, City Administrator Harrison Lee presented the initiatives designed to support your strategic goals on June 2nd during a work session. Following that, we had further review of those initiatives that support your goals on July 7th and July 21st. July 21st was when we did the 2014 mid-year financial highlights, and also on July 21st, your financial advisor, Bruce Kimmel of Ellers, presented his analysis of the city's debt and funding capacity for future projects. As required,